Evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 12 of the Iarmhi podcast. Where tonight I'm joined by three hurling men for the first half of the show. On my right hand side, he's on his own over here because we have to keep himself and Brendan Shaw apart. That's Pat O'Brien, Gaston, we all know him. And on my left, Adrian, Moran and Brendan Shaw from Maher. So I think Brendan, myself and yourself are the two people at the table tonight that are happy with how the weekend went anyway, but we'll get around to all of that in the meantime. Shout out straight off to our sponsors, the Tire Warrior Garage in the Pigeons Athlone, Shanette Sheds in Kilbeggan, Michael Mannion CBRT Centre in the Blair Industrial Estate in Athlone, Dr.ie, Clark's Bar where we're back here tonight, and KCS Sports. Big announcement to make tonight as well. We're going on the road next week again, and next week we'll be coming to you live from Belvedere House, just outside of Mullingar. So anyone else is out there, they were listening to us last week, they approached us, they came to us and we sorted out and the logistics of it, so we're going to be coming to you live I think at 8 o'clock next week, a little bit earlier, so get into Belvedere House. So it will be a football preview weekend, so we'll be talking all things Westmeath Club football next weekend anyway. Lads, Adrian, just a couple of questions before we start into the whole thing. Colosh de Wirra, I know the draw was made for Leinster Championship for the colleges. Can you fill it in, or when are you starting back, or you have to wait for the school is back, I presume? At this stage?
School is back, I think Thursday, Friday this week. Okay. We were together this morning. We did an analysis session and a good kind of structure set up for the year. So I think we had about 50 guys there, and there's still a few lads on holidays and a few lads caught working, but a good group of lads in and very keen to get going and mad for road. And
I think it's fairly well known that you have a few more recruits coming in for this year as well, so it's always nice to see when it just is the pull that the schools have when there's A colleges, whether it's football or hurling.
Yeah, I suppose maybe a lot of people wouldn't be aware of that. It's the hurling now is really A throughout from first year. And even this year in first year, like there's a lot of kids coming in from Collinstown and 4, and which wouldn't have been a kind of a
catchment
area originally. It's a massive sporting school, but actually in there this morning I was talking to Niall O'Brien, and we were discussing the academics of it and the results, and it's amazing to think. But when you sit back and you talk about it and go through the bones of it. Like a lot of the footballers, and while the hurlers were beaten in the semi-final, the footballers progressed a good bit further and had great success. Most of those guys are in like top level even cert results. Obviously you can't discuss points and things like that, but academically the school is absolutely thriving. It's up there, one of the best in the country, so the sport is a great, I suppose, attraction and bringing people in, but as we all know that if you can adapt yourself in the sporting context, like the general run of lad in there that's playing hurling or football from September, we'll say, till you're knocked out of championship or till you progress and win a final. You train at 7 o'clock in the morning and you have your dietary requirements all brought in with you, and it's all pre-planned. I would say 98 to 99% of those guys do the after school study from 4:15 to 6. So while people might on the outside think that young lads are going in there for hurling and football and there's soccer, there's rugby and everything there, academically the school is absolutely thriving, and those facilities being there for the youth that are actually playing sports and other aspects of the school year, that things are tough, but the facilities and the way they're looked after is absolutely fantastic.
Micheál all are driving it, the hurling end of it anyway.
Yeah, Micheál is a massive man there, sure. His knowledge, like Micheál's father won All Ireland with Kilkenny, so the breeding is there. He's a massive man. He was a great catch, I suppose, for St Mary's 6 or 7 years ago. The draw, our side of the draw, we've clashed Eoin in the first round, they beat Dublin, and then we drew 2 Wexford schools, so we have CBS Enniscorthy and St Peter's College as well. So look, at hurling is hurling. It's
no easy.
There's nothing easy, and these guys know that, and they'll adapt to that, and they'll you work through your minor championship and your under 16 championship over the next couple of weeks, and when it's over it's really head down. But in the meantime we'll be getting a good bit of work into them, and you don't really train. It's down to structure and how you're going to approach games and all that sort of stuff until you don't want to affect the clubs what clubs are at, because this is their time of year. But you know, the school, like I thought Niall this morning there, as I said, and they're absolutely delighted with success, obviously. But last week there was massive success for a lot of those dual players academically. So I think it's important to get that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Pat, Adrian just mentioned there about county minors and stuff like that. And I think it was maybe in the last a week or so we had the announcement that Iarmhi stepped down as county minor manager, and I know you were part of that backroom team as well. So you want to give us shed some insight on what happened there, because it was a very, very good year on the field for you, and someone said it was probably the greatest fiasco of a format for a knockout stage of a championship in the history of the Leinster Minor Hurling Championship. But you tell me what happened, what's going on that you guys have stepped down.
Yeah, well, I suppose the first perception out there is that we're open-minded in going forward. Like, people might say, oh, maybe they stepped away because there's an awful lot of hard work involved in being a minor manager, and management. There's an awful lot of like, we'd done 70 sessions. Now, I personally didn't do 70, but Iarmhi and his manager did. A lot of them sessions entailed, say, on the pitches and on matches, but also gym work. That's where it all accounted to. And in so being, like, Iarmhi ran an eye over the under-16s, as I did a little bit, but he done more for the last 4 matches that they played, and the last one was down in Kilkenny itself, and he went to it. But just to go back, we were asked to give a review at the end of the year for what we had done and what we had.
Standard procedure, I would expect.
You would expect.
Yeah, right.
But we'd sat down ourselves and done a document out, and it was 6 pages we had, but it was all detailed as regards. There was positives, and then there was what we called area for improvement.
Yeah. And
Gerard was our delegate because he's the manager. He went and he met with the minor board, because they would be our first step of call. Like, so we met. He met with Barry Kelly, and he met with Paul Murray and Sheehan Braiodi. He was the chairperson, and he outlined all what we had on it, and his understanding was then that that would be passed on to the senior board, because the minor board is only a subcommittee of a senior board anyway, so there were very little say or whatever, and we would wait for the response from them. So I do know that the document was circulated to the senior board, because one person in it notified me about it, and they said that all the senior board management, I presume it's management committee.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how many people that entails, but I would imagine it entails a fair bit, because they're the total running of the county, so they all would have seen it, right? And just for argument's sake, like, you might say, well, did you have a lot of negatives? We didn't have any negatives in it whatsoever. Like, areas for improvement was, like, we wanted to ask about the format of the Leinster Championship, which we were in, but you are after saying it was farcical for Westmeath to ask Leinster about that. We were looking to see, could Leinster have a development league like they have in football? There's nothing for the hurling. You have to go and get your own challenge games. We also looked at, say, the dual player dilemma. We wanted to talk to the county board people and then both managements to kind of get a structure in place to protect the dual player. Facilities, big elephant in the room for everybody. We're not going to go there. Food for players, looking after players. These guys are 17 years of age. They're not young lads anymore. They're almost at adulthood. You know, the gear, things like that. Instead of having it coming in dribs and drabs, and at the end of the year, be organised, have it done, get it out of the way, whatever. You know, payment of services provided. There's a lot of people out there that we go to, like the people that run the gymnasiums, the people that provide the food, the people that, you know, instead of dragging our heels, pay them. Like, we're the first port of call when they come, say, like, if we're working with someone, well, they're dealing with us.
Like you,
It comes to us first.
They're looking for the money off you.
Obviously, you know, I mean, things like that, you know, training equipment, you know, home venues. Like, Westmeath played 7 matches in the Leinster Championship in the last 2 years at home. We never once played in Cusick Park. Us personally, we played 3 championship matches in Leinster, and we played in 3 different club venues.
Clonkill, Castleton, I know, and Maher, that's the third one. Yeah.
And we were never asked, have you a preference of where you'd like to play?
Yeah.
We specifically said we didn't want to play in one venue, because some of the guys never played in it. but we did end up playing in it. You know, communication, recovery facilities. Like, in the day and age, you have dual players, you have matches coming from, say, midweek to end Saturdays and whatever. Like, there is a great facility out in the Downs now for recovery. There's cold baths and whatever. We looked for a small bit of, funding for that. We didn't get any. So we asked the young lads to bring a fiver ahead, and we paid the rest ourselves. There's an awful lot, but there's nothing there that would be a stumbling block for anybody to sit around the table and have a negotiating. 7 weeks went by, and we get a text last week from Barry. Are you going forward for 2027?
With no negotiation, no nothing happened.
Nothing. Zero. So our understanding is that the 20 people, as Brendan has pointed out, in this management committee saw this and done nothing about it. Not one person said to the other person, maybe we should have a little bit of an in-house meeting here to see and iron out whatever. There's nothing major here to be ironed out, but there's areas for improvement, which is exactly what I've stated, and it's for the benefit of Westmeath hurling going forward. And it would also benefit Westmeath football at underage going forward. But nothing happened. So our understanding was that nobody cared. So we're looking at this and saying we're finding this with very little support from our county board. And we have to look to our county board because they're our...
Well, you can't do anything without their go ahead.
Well, they're our guidance.
Yeah, that's it.
Like small things like emails that have been sent and not been responded to. It's in the day and age we're in, like. Now, we did have a big issue with the format of the Leinster Championship when it turned out, because we played well. We won 3 championship games in it by beating Dublin Meath or Dublin Offaly and Laois. We ended up level with Wexford. Wexford progressed. We only wanted to ask the question, how come Wexford can progress and we don't? And there's teams on the other side with least points, and they do. Yeah. But that question was never, that email was never sent to Leinster Council on our behalf. That's a letdown also.
And you don't know what's happening next year.
Well, sure, nobody knows what's happening next year, because we did say we need to look at the format. The format needs to be changed, or all that needs to be done is Leinster Council puts in on printed paper the rule is if 2 teams do end up level in their own group, even though they play a crisscross, scoring difference will divide them. Yeah. But they never done that.
Yeah.
So we were in limbo, but we needed guidance and we didn't get it. We needed support and we didn't get it. So we're looking at this and saying, well, if we go ahead and say, well, we're going to do it again next year, you do the same thing year after year and you expect the same result. It doesn't change.
That's the definition of madness, man.
Well, sure, we're not that stupid, like we put in such an amount of effort, and you must remember that the people that looked after all minors, they're total volunteers. There is not a penny for anybody. Nobody looks for anything. I already explained that one of our chaps, Martin Geary, travelled 8 hours a week to and from training. That's some commitment.
Yeah.
And he's one of the guys that turned up at every training session. So I'm not falling out with anybody. I'm not telling anything other than the truth here. I will probably get stick from county board officials when I meet them in Cusick Park. But the bottom line is, if they are not prepared to look after these young people, and we were the only shining light in hurling in Westmeath this year.
I think that's fair.
Because the senior end of it, and they have serious problems at the senior end of it, whether the county board realise it or not, between management and players. Under 20 struggled, but we, as this group, did quite well.
You look at Pat, you did better than quite well. Like that, that team was easily in the top 4 in Leinster and might even have been higher than the top 4.
If they can replace Ger Behan with somebody who is better than Ger Behan, I'd like to meet him, because I will state on this programme that Ger Behan, in all my time, and I mean 40 years or more at management, training, playing, whatever, I have never met anyone as organised as this man, as diligent. You know, his professionalism, his we would be going to training on, say, whatever, 3 times a week. We will get a text 2 hours before training. Each of us will know exactly what our role is going to be that evening, our time slot. Everything will fall from the warm-up, the session, and to the warm-down. He will organise after refreshments afterwards. He'll organise. He is the best man to organise, motivate, delegate, and here we are We just pass them by.
We've lost another.
Well, sure, we've
lost another good crew. And that's the bottom line.
Well, I mean, through lack of interest.
Yeah, Martin Geary, Finton Clark, yourself, Seamus Ennis, all good hurling people.
And there is nothing. I'm telling you, if all we needed to do was sit around the table, Gerard Behan was sitting, no problem. The table was there, but there was no one on the other side. And that, to me, and I'm not being harsh on anybody, I'm telling it as it is.
Yeah.
That's reality. Like.
That's it.
So that's for that reason, Ger did state on the return text that due to the fact that no correspondence was forthcoming on our previous meeting, we were left in no position only to offer our resignation. And he discussed it with us, and we said we were 100% behind you. And we feel sorry for the young lads, because there is talent out there. Adrian will tell you about the talent coming through the schools. You know, there is talent out there. But the same thing is happening at the development squads, and I'm tired beating the drum. They are accountable to who? But every development management should be brought in at the end of the year, sat down at the table for half an hour with the county board and say, how did you get on, lads? How did you find the year? Is there anything we can help you with? Do you need anything to improve on next year? The one word that you will find in all the management from minor, under 16 and under 15 is frustration. And you can ask any one of them, that is the most common denominator.
Look, Pat, I was there. It was the same feeling back then.
We're in 2026 now. Times have changed. I've seen, only yesterday, Nicky Brennan is talking about Leinster Council are trying to improve the standard of Leinster because they feel that they're dropping behind Munster. He says to himself, well, there's only 2 or 3 teams here. How can we bring the Tier 2 teams up? How can we structure it in such a way that they're going to be playing more meaningful games? But you must look after your own house first before you expect Leinster Council to look after.
Yeah. And those guys are going to go on to under 20 next year, and
I've said it.
The management needed there as well.
Yeah, I know that, but I've said it before that the present under 17 squad plus last year's under 17 squad have the nucleus of putting Westmeath back in a prime position in a few years' time. If they go through the proper structures at under 20 on to senior. They're there. The talent is there. There is talent. There was a synopsis done, and in the top 10 scorers in the Leinster Championship this year, we had 3, and we didn't play a semi-final or a final. In the top 10 in Ireland, we had 1. He was number 8, top scorer from play, and we didn't play either, any of them. So there is talent there.
Yeah,
there is talent there, but they need guidance. They need support. They need help. They need interest. But at the moment, these things are lacking, unfortunately. And it's sad for me to have to say that.
Yeah.
But that is the reality.
Yeah, because we don't, I think it's fairly well known, and Adrian, you've been involved in under 21 at the time, whatever, Brendan, club hurling and the whole inter-county scene as well. We don't, unfortunately, come with a good group every year. It might be every 5 years.
Yeah,
and it would be an awful pity if a good group comes through with minor and we don't nurture them.
I could probably add to Pat's comments about this year's under 17 and last year. You can include under 18, under 19 and a lot of 20-year-olds that we have at the moment. There's as much talent in those 4 years as we've ever had. That'd be my outlook on it, and that's really looking at CBS for the last number of years and going to combined schools previous years. We have a lot of talent. A lot of them, in my opinion, and listen, it's only an opinion, a lot of them aren't ready to play senior hurling at inter-county level.
Yeah.
I'm not going to start naming names, it'd be very unfair.
No, but we're going to talk about club matches that happened last weekend, or this weekend gone by, and we're going to be talking some young lads who are coming into adult hurling for the first time that have look like they've grown up in it.
Yeah,
is the talent is there. There is no doubt about that.
No, we have huge talent, and it's the comment has been made several times that the football has cast a shadow. Fair play to football. The work, the work is being done, and it's a credit to both CBS, the Marston at Loan, and all these other schools are adding to that. But we already spoke about CBS this morning, and Fahino Brennan is up there. There's a few other teachers up there working very, very hard at hurling and football. But like, this is what, I don't know what day today is, but we're looking to get ready for a championship match in November, and our structure are being put in place this morning.
Yeah.
And you think of school years, young lads in school, like, these are back a week before they're due back to school, because that's the interest that they have.
Yeah, just on that, like, I'd just like to comment on like, I went to a lot of the minor games, county minor games this year. I went to a lot of the training sessions because I had somebody involved, and I was very impressed with the whole setup. It was excellent. There was a very professional setup, and I've been involved with a lot of management teams over the years, and I have to say it was one of the better ones I'd seen, operating at county level anyway. And like, the lads put their heart and soul into it. The players responded. There was talent there, but as Pat said, the organisation that was put in place, it was an excellent structure, and I'm just very disappointed that there hasn't been an engagement by the county board on this. That there is talent there, as Adrian rightly said, but we don't have a pathway or a structure to bring these guys from 17 to senior level, and that's the big the talent is definitely there, but if you haven't got structure, if you haven't got the leadership from the county board to do that, to bring that, and that vision, you need that.
Yeah.
That needs to be there. And like, I'm not going to name and shame anybody here, but that's what's required is a structure and a vision, and it needs to be in place for many years to bring that. Like, if you look at the senior team this year, like, there was very few guys from the under 20 ready to come on to this.
I don't think we had any overlap this year.
I don't think so. No. Now, like, if you were getting one or two every year, that's all you need to keep your senior team operating at a higher level.
Keep it freshened up.
And like, the nature of of inter-county stuff, you're always going to be injuries and guys retiring and stuff like that. You need this. You need a conveyor belt of players coming through. But a guy at 17 needs to know. I'm not going to name any players, but the top players, they need to see a pathway for them, what they can do to get them to senior. And these guys, they want to play senior. I could name 5 of them, but I won't.
Yeah.
That I think could be senior hurlers for Westmeath in the future. But they need to see that there's a vision there, that there's a structure, because they might say, sure, there's nothing set up there. Why would I bother?
And be lost.
And I know that there are other counties out there, like Clare is an example. They got a terrible hiding in a minor hurling about 7 or 8 years ago, and they sat down and they looked at their structures. They're after winning an under 20 this year, but they now have a conveyor belt of players coming through, and they're going to be competing at senior level very strongly over the next few years. And I think they could be a template that Westmeath could look at.
Absolutely.
Just before you do go on, right, I think there is a positive in this with what Leinster Council have done, because before that, Westmeath had a very slim chance of actually progressing, and you might get one game. But I know we were all looking at each other with 10 heads in Portlaoise a couple of months ago with this minor team when this scenario arose. But at least going forward, we know that there is a level of progression through Leinster with the adoption of that we've made. Now, they probably looked at it and said, this is good for maybe Westmeath, Laois, Carlow, whoever, but just didn't look at it clinically enough for the next step. And I think that's a lot of point that Pat's making as well.
Well, look at lads, we'll park it for now on because I want to move on because we have a long show tonight. But looking back at the hurling games the weekend, I'm going to look at the intermediate hurling as well, because it's starting to get interesting now very much. Results of the weekend: Raharney 2-16, Southern Gales 1-14, Turin 3-22, Castleton 1-22, and a cracking match yesterday morning. Clonkill 4-17, Cullion 3-18. Now, at the moment, we have 3 teams on 6 points, 1 team on 4 points, 1 team on 2 points, and Southern Gales on no points. I don't know whether you got to see any games or the Castleton game as well. Good scoring game with Turin getting back on the wagon again.
Turin rallied her up, and up front, Sean Leach was a masterstroke. He was head and shoulders above everybody. His ability to catch the ball, Turin knew what to do with it. He was the difference in the game. His brother was missing, he was injured. at that time, but they did come back. Now they did play. Now in credit Castletown, the younger players, they played very well also. 122 is
good score.
Is a good score to
win a lot of games.
It would win a lot of games, and to lose by 6, it's it's solid enough, like But no, Turin, look at that. We said the last day it could have been a good wake-up call for them. I would say management was quite happy to move on. They did move on. They're hurling quite well. They have a nice structure. They're a nice balanced team. The most baffling, if you want to go on, team in this is Southern Gales.
Yeah,
I mean, they have my head done in. I cannot figure out how they end up with 0 points. And I've seen them up front. They have talent. They are tidy. They're physical. They're big. They're well looked after. Martin is a good coach. But it's amazing. They're gone.
Yeah.
They're out.
They're out now, yeah. There's strangely, Brendan Raharney, Southern Gales, were you at that game?
I was at that game, yeah. It was a good, tough game. Raharney probably dominated. It was even off at the start, but Raharney got a couple of goals before half time, but they were winning by 6 or 7 points at half time. But it was a very even contest. Southern Gales came back at Raharney in the second half, but we just seemed to be able to keep our noses in front all the time. And that team the Raharney team is very young, and they all played with great teamwork and spirit, and we have a bit of a panel there now, even at intermediate. We have a few lads that we were able to bring on to close out the game, so that helps the situation. If lads are getting tired now, it was a very physical game, I have to say that. But I just Southern Gales are I'm baffled as much as Pat how they could be in a county final last year, and they're in a position now that they're and it's worrying really to see. I know Cullen they've only one win in this championship as well, and it's not good for those sole
teams,
to see them there at the bottom of the table. It's to be fair to the senior clubs, their objective is not to. Their priority is their senior. The intermediate is secondary. And they would be all like that. But it's looking at Cullen there in Southern Gales at the bottom of the table. No, it's not. Now I believe Cullen have a mathematical chance.
They have the scenario that it's a do or die game against Castletown. If they win, they have 4 points and they'll get through in the head to head.
It's a quarter final.
It is a quarter final.
They're actually in the very same position as previous world.
I still think and I have been back in Cullen to come good, and I'm still back to
them with Clonkill and Cullen in a semi-final.
Well, you just don't know, but
be 3 probably.
Cullen are in the scenario where they were 2 years ago and they meet Castletown and they had to win as well. And I think that was at Senior B, was it? They had to stay up or whatever it was. That was 2 years ago. Yeah, and they just got over the line. Look, they still have the 4 county players. They still have, whereas Castletown wouldn't have that calibre of player. Castletown will have good skilled young lads that will be able to move around.
I think lost another player.
They probably lost Fergal, I think.
Yeah, Fergal,
but look at they are where they are. They'll give as good as they can get. Now they'll still possibly get tight. You would expect Cullen to win this, and if Cullen don't win this, there's no qualms. They cannot complain. The score or the board will tell you that you didn't win your games.
We also, Castletown are a light team. In a month's time, the weather and everything. You're looking at
Cullen is more physical. They're big, stronger.
Yeah, big men. Big men can score from distance as well.
But if Cullen win this game, they will be dangerous going forward.
But 4 weeks' time, the weather and pitches and everything's going to be an awful lot different for the next round.
But they need to get their act together now. They have 3 weeks to sort it out. I don't know what football played.
I think we have 3 weeks of football.
3 weeks of football.
It's 4 weeks then.
Would they be playing football? I don't know. Where some of these Castletown lads will be playing.
They'll be playing with Lawmans and
Shamrocks. Will be playing with Killucan
but Cullen
Lawmans, boys playing with Lawmans.
Regan, but anyway, look, it's in their own hands.
Maybe.
As difficult as it looks, it's in their own hands.
And you can't, like you say, you can't complain when you have that situation. Managed to get to the 3 Senior B games this weekend. Friday night out in Ringtown, Castlepart 124, Ringtown, or Crookwood 213, and then Saturday evening, Oliver Plunkett's 116, Brownstown 14. And then in Kinnegad yesterday, St Bridget's 316, Ringtown 214. I think you were in Ringtown on Friday night as well, Rumour had it you were there spying are all right.
Looking for free
Spying?
No,
I was there
for this podcast.
my duty.
And it was man mad. It was a funny game. The wood looked out of us. Pollard, looked in control.
Absolutely.
And next thing, the wood got level. And we're level for...
And should have pushed on.
But
didn't have the know-how to do it.
No.
I mean, Pollard, as you say, Ray, were in control of the game.
Yeah.
They had whatever breeze was, possibly whatever slopes and is in Ringtown. They had whatever elements, but I tell you something, the young boys had some amount of hurling balls at the back field going home that night, because every slitter in the place went over the nets.
Thank God.
Was it your field, is it?
Thank God.
Anyway, apart from that,
slitters for sale.
let's get back to the hurling.
Yeah.
Pollard were in control. Now, they were missing a few key players.
Yeah.
Darren was missing, Gaffey was missing, and David Higgins up front was missing.
Connor Gaffney.
Connor, yeah.
Yeah.
So, them three were a series.
Well, we said last
Loss.
week that would kind of even it out a hell of a lot.
But they were 8 points up, and there was no life at all, seemingly. And Barry was playing a long way from home, and he was trying to put ball into lads into space, and it
But
just
him and
wasn't.
McGovern and Shane McGovern were very far from
They were
goal.
too far out.
At one side in the second half, you could nearly see Shane McGovern going into the full forward line with a lot of ball going in and coming back out, and it's probably a move. Look, hindsight is a great thing.
Anyway, look, they put Adam Bates in full forward, and in all honesty, he was struggling. But he came up with 2 goals, counted with nothing.
Speed.
Just
great
worked
pace.
out. And all of a sudden they got back into it, and Pollard were struggling to get the ball and get puck outs and whatever. And they drew level, and they had ample opportunities to push on, and they didn't. And then they committed the cardinal sin by fouling at the back, and I think 4 frees in a row Pollard got.
Young Tierney,
And Tierney stood up again.
Yeah.
So I had to go and ask the question, who is this young Tierney fella?
Right.
So I found out he's not a Westmeath man.
Okay.
No.
He comes across the border. He's from Offaly. I think he's living now. He's
He lived in Castlepollard.
He bought a house in Castlepollard.
No, Mickey Dan's
He's with
daughter.
Mickey Dan's daughter, I think so. And he works for Mickey Dan. So that's who he is. So I tell you, he's a tidy hurler. Now he'll be disappointed. He shoots a lot.
Yeah.
He got whatever.
I think he had 6 wides in the first half.
He had, but his wide count is strong.
Yeah.
He had a lot of wides. Like he had from play alone, he got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from play, and he's the free taker also. But he did hit another 4 or 5 wides. So he's on a lot of ball. He's a good stick work.
Yeah, he's
a nice tidy
he was on
hurler.
11, I think, he was on 11, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
he was in midfield in some of the other games.
O'Leary at wing back I still think he's the makings of a great centre back for Castlepollard going forward, and I suppose with the introduction of Brian Gilchrist a couple of minutes ago, he just brought electric pace to the Castlepollard forward line.
To get it over the line.
He can limit 1-1.
The goal, in all fairness to the goalkeeper, and most times the goalkeeper gets the kind of a rap or a tap or whatever, he's the free out. There was no sympathy coming from James on this occasion, and he did get the rap. And the ball spilled, and it was...
Well, James did inform us that he was playing by the old rules.
Actually, he's linesman, I thought.
And look, it was a right cracking game now. It was a good contest.
And a good crowd on it. Only game on the Friday evening, so it was good.
The only disappointing part on it was that there was only one linesman. I mean,
Yes.
it was a round 4
Yeah.
championship match that both the teams, especially the Wood, were really... And Castlepollard did bring the ball over the line, brought it back in and put it over the bar.
Right.
And there was no linesman.
No linesman, yeah.
That's just a little bit disappointing.
Yeah. Oliver Plunkett's won 16, Brownstown 14 points. That game was in TG Cusick Park on the Saturday evening. And, Plunkett's just, watching it, I just felt they were getting the scores that little bit easier than what Brownstown were doing.
Yeah, I was late in for it, but Brownstown just couldn't get a grips with Paddy Lynham and Craig in the middle of the field in the first half, and in the second half when Aaron Craig went back as a kind of a sweeping role, it really steadied the ship. And
Craig stood up now, he really stood up.
And then there's a young lad there playing, Mikey Rear, Brian Reedy was strong, Owen Meehan, he was Gloucester last year, he won a lot of ball in the first half, kind of went a little bit out of the game in the second half, but yet again, only first year as senior hurling. Plunkett's looked in control, but if they were to meet again, you'd expect a massive, bigger fight from Brownstown. They never seemed to, Brownstown, their game never seemed to just ignite. that
Yeah.
just didn't
Well,
happen for
I
them, you
think
know.
the way it's set up that they will meet again.
I think so, Pat.
You know, because
yeah.
Castle Pollard have to play, it's at Bridget's,
Bridget's.
and Oliver Plunkett's are playing Ringtown.
Yeah.
You know, so I would think, you know, that it's kind of will nearly, because the wood is gone, their chance was gone, they needed to win.
No, they would play Brownstown in the last game.
Yes, well,
which is our winner take all.
Oh, that's right, yeah, they're 5 and 4 points, 5 points and 4 points, yeah.
Yeah, Castle 7,
Yeah.
Oliver Plunket 6, Brownstown 5, the Wood of 4, Bridges 2, and none. So, yeah, that game is a winner take all.
Yeah, well, it is,
Really, yeah.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It
That's
is.
what it is.
So, you know, it's
But I think there's more in Brownstown than like I'm looking at both of them, Brownstown and the Wood, but the different days. I think there's more in Brownstown.
you know, short Jamie Fitzsimons, it didn't tug out at all. I was disappointed with Brian Gear, and I thought he flittered in around the game.
Yeah, well,
he didn't seem to be able to get on ball.
To me, he was playing on the wing. Now, it's obviously opinions, and that's what we're here for, but I think if Brian Gearn's at 11 or 14, he's a far bigger threat.
Yeah.
You know, he's a central player. Like, he did run at him a couple of times on a couple of occasions and cause problems.
Yeah. And the last game of that senior B yesterday in Kinnegad, Bridges got their first win of the year, 3-16 to 2-14. Adrian, we were both there, boxing the heads off each other on the sideline, me and you, but probably Bridges deserved it overall.
Yeah, there's nobody in Ringtown who will say any different. The overall performance in Bridges, it was like just a hungrier team. We never got a grasp on Mikey Mullen. It could have been, I don't know,
1-8,
6,
I think
was it 1-8, was it? Something like that, yeah. And probably he definitely left another 1, 3 or 4 behind him. He was unlucky with a couple of frees, but there was one at stage in the second half going through, and just as he was about to pull the trigger, fluffed the ball, and you know, that would have put Ringtown even or further behind. Probably perhaps the scoreline flatters a little bit. Ringtown never got the grasp with Mikey Mullen at all, and
Yeah, Paddy Carroll was good.
Paddy Carroll very, very strong, puckouts, massive puckouts.
Scored a penalty then at a crucial time as well.
And look, to be fair, and it's my own nephew in the goals, if there was 3 lads in the goals, they wouldn't have stopped it.
No.
It was absolutely top class from Paddy, and I worked with Paddy a few years ago here at County, and he's a top class goalkeeper, and he led by example yesterday. Like, there was one massive free in the first half as well.
Yeah,
long range, like he was on his own 45 and over the bar. Like, it's, you know, Ringtown weren't clinical enough, probably didn't. I suppose, how would you define it is that Bridges played as a team and we didn't. We didn't throw the ball around enough. We were shooting from kind of panic stations, shooting from haphazard situations and ball not going over and panicking on a lot of it, you know, and probably didn't have enough leaders standing up for us. Yeah.
But look, the lads out there, they'll be delighted with to get the win anyway.
And that's not taken from Bridges, as I said.
Huge boost for Bridges.
Yeah.
Because they're coming up for the first time, you know, and we did pen it last week that it probably was a relegation game. They're tough, both teams have tough games the next day, even though Pollard and Plunkett's are in a semi-final position, but I would still imagine both of them would be looking to play a final, get into a final, you know, so both of them I would imagine, you know, if you're in the semi, the way I would look at it is, if you're in a semi-final, well, you have to win 2 games to win the championship.
Yeah.
But if you're in the final, well, you've only really to concentrate on 1 game to win the championship.
And you want to keep winning.
Yeah.
And it's momentum as well. And any team, I've seen it down the years, so that goes in kind of, we'll go a bit handy by knowing that we're okay, you get caught out.
Yeah.
You know, it even happened at Laois in the Joe McDonough, I remember.
That's right,
If you lack, you know, if you're in the drive, keep driving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I would think both of these teams, you know,
they'll want to win.
well, I know, but but Bridget's and Ringtown will find it difficult.
Yeah,
you know, the next day. Bridget's are hoping, of course, the opposition beat Ringtown, and Ringtown are hoping the other way that they can do their, you know, they need. They don't have to win.
The only way it'll work is for Ringtown to win, and then you get a playoff. If Bridges are beaten by Pollard, you get a playoff because I don't think you can be relegated.
No. It's a play. It will be a playoff.
Yeah.
Ringtown, it's a must. They must find 2 points.
Yeah. And look at venues. Like, it's no more than talking about Crooked Woods last game. Venues will dictate a bit here too. You know,
I presume
these games will all have to be at the same time. You know, Ottawa, to be fair to everybody, they'll have to be. So you're right, Adrian. Venues will be, you know, will be the
and we're going to be 4 weeks down the line, I think, before we'll have them.
Yeah,
so
weather and pitches
and everything else.
Is that no pitch ready? Is it?
No.
Well, not about venues.
All right. Senior A. Loughlin Gales 415, Clonkill 219.
Sorry, just before you go on, and I want, it is a compliment now
Okay.
to Mikey Mullen. I don't know what age he is. He looks about 27 or 28. But I don't know, is he ever approached or whatever by wear a Westmeath jersey. But with the couple of displays I seen him in this year, he's one of those lads that you could have a conversation with.
Yeah.
Sorry for tracking back now, but
Yeah.
I meant to say it earlier.
Yeah, I don't know that, I wouldn't know. Going on to Senior A. Raharney 24, Castone 15, and I think the performance of the weekend, and we'll start with this game with you, Pat. Delvin 315, Father Dalton's 314.
Well, as I sent a text to Seamus that says, I did not see this coming. And I think most of us around the table could agree with it.
Yeah.
Now, if it's like this, when you go into a game and if you put your heart and soul on the line and you give 100% and you're totally committed, anything is possible. But if you go in on the opposite side, that you think you are better, you think that you're going to win, you think that it'll all happen eventually along the way, and all of a sudden you run out of time. Your attitude could be wrong. That's what happened. And I think that's the scenario here yesterday. Delvin says, well, we'll have one cut of this.
Yeah.
Father Dalton's and probably everybody that met along the week says, look at your Daltons, you're holding well again the big teams. The boys are after getting some trimmings. You'll get over the line. And that's always at the back of your head. Eventually you get over the line. And it was tight along the way, but you'd have to give great credit to the heart and belief that Delvin had within themselves, considering the beatings they got along the way from the other teams.
Like they conceded 7, was it, against Clonkill, and 4 and 5, you know, big beatings. But
I spoke with her last week. You know, the only little bit of China United been clinging on to was they were scoring well enough in games, you know, and like Mikey Clune, like the shift he put in, the work rate from him, like, and you have to give credit all over the pitch to the Delvin lads, and you know, to Seamus Ennis for sticking with it and keeping going. You can imagine, like, for the last couple of weeks how tough, and we're going to press on that at the moment, how tough it is and having to keep lads training and keep them going. But look at the class of Dara Clinton yesterday.
Well, Clinton, you see, if you have a Clinton and he turns up on the day, he's as good as any of the senior clubs have, any of their players.
Well, I think Dara Clinton would make any club team.
Absolutely. And
You
like
know.
I'll just I was only in for the second half of this game, and I had spoke to people at half time and said Father Dalton's had missed a lot in the first half.
But led 3-6 after 15 minutes.
Yes. But I Delvin, I think, must have harnessed that spirit that they remember last year in the Senior B final. They played Oliver Plunkett. They played with an abandon and a spirit in the second half there, and Alan Cox was outstanding as centre back. He
very,
was
very strong.
outstanding. And as Pat said, when Dara Clinton is on his game, he is a top forward. And the goal he scored, that first goal he scored, was any forward would be proud to score. It was a class goal. He didn't go for power. He just snuck it in past the post, and that ignited them. Like, and once they had that momentum, Father Dalton's kind of lost their way a little bit. Like, you know, John Gilligan was trying hard. He got one great score out near the sideline, but he wasn't getting any much help. And when the tide starts flowing against you, it's very difficult to stop it. And Delvin just displayed that great spirit. And you know, they're big men like Josh Call and Alan Cox and Adam Ennis and Clinton. They stood up on Sunday. They did.
Brandon and Collar in the middle of the field, but like, that's usually an area where Father Dalton's physicality has really beaten other, we'll say, Senior B teams over the last 6 or 7 years, because they've been so big and physical. But the work rate of Delvin was, and the work rate of Delvin and the pure class of Dara Clinton. Like the ball he brought down for the second goal. Like, come here. It was a pleasure, you know, to be watching it.
But Adrian, Dara has been doing that for years. Like, I mean, we don't appreciate it. Like, you know, he's
absolutely.
He's a top forward.
I think Dara scored 8 points against Kilkenny when we took them here in the park in 2016.
Yeah, but see, he has that ability to do that, but his consistency at doing that is his issue.
He'd be fairly consistent now this year, I think. He'd be
he's playing well this year, but for Westmeath, like, you know, he flatters to deceive, and I'm a good admirer of him, and I like him, but he can be so clinical, and then the next day you're expecting this again, and you wonder, where is he?
I suppose, look at that.
But he done the job yesterday, absolutely, and he's been leading from the front in all their games.
There was games where he was playing poorly with Westmeath, and and there's lads at the weekend, and we can talk about them too, that were taken off that probably should have been left on to get experience, but by times Dar might hit 2 over the shoulder wide, and then he's whipped off, and that, so the consistency of actually game time with him over the last number of years has also been a problem, that he wasn't getting consistent games over and over and over, but there's no doubt about it, he was a standout player all weekend in the championship.
Yeah, absolutely, and I know from talking to Seamus about him that he's been, exemplary. He made him captain, and I don't know whether it was just a bit of responsibility that he needed, but he certainly delivered on the big day. Now, he had a text message on my phone earlier on today, but he deleted it, so I don't know whether I was going to get a bit of grief for not giving them any chance going into the weekend or whatever, but look, to me it was the performance of the weekend.
And Seamus had struggled with management earlier in the year as well, where lads had committed to him, and then seeing that they were getting poor results, and
he kept local men,
persevered.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
You have to fire that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
you have to give credit where credit is due. That's the bottom line.
And you also have to remember that their key marksman wasn't on the pitch at all this year. Dean
hasn't been at all.
And he's a really bright spark, but hopefully he'll get back next year.
Hopefully he'll be back. Exactly. And Saturday evening, the Gales 4-15, Clonkill 2-19. This was a cracking match, but the Gales, impressive them lads. I think they're going with a bit of a mission this year, Pat. I know.
Yeah, look at
fair task, Brendan, but we impressed them.
I have been impressed all along. I have been saying, look at the Gales. First of all, you've only got to look at, as I said it before, their management bench, if you want to call it that. They have really boosted up everything, and and on top of that, they have Thomas Mount doing the stats for them. So they're looking to see that fine little, as Paddy says, that 1 grain of rice and they make the difference, and they're finding it. But no, they hurled well. They responded well when Clonkill put it up to them. When Clonkill, and in fairness to Clonkill, early days it didn't look that good, but they came back into the game and got back, and Niall got a goal, and somehow they were, I think Clonkill were a point up.
1-8
to 1-7 at half time. But the Gales did respond. The Gales always have a tendency to come out and start well the second half, and they done that again, and they got going. And, it was level. I think it was 3-12 to 2-15 and they went straight back up and got a goal.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
To put the goal, that little bit of breathing space between them. Oh, look at the Gales are a formidable outfit. They're hurling well. There are a couple of changes. Now, whether it was, I thought, there were injuries here, and the only, the Brahan markers at 15, and Brahan, who was the cornerback, or one of the...
Yeah, Dara Daly
came on as well. So they weren't obviously injured as such, but Kramer was missing, so he must be injured. But look, they're more balanced seemingly this year, and I like the jogger. The jogger sat by. Now, to me, it was size-wise a terrible mismatch with Robbie Cleary and the jogger. But the jogger stood off him, and he watched what was happening at the back, and then he'd drift off for a quick puck out, and he'd be buffing the half-hour line. And he caught 2 of them and straight over the bar. Where he just has that ability he's able to read it so well.
I think he finished the game though in his natural home.
Oh, he did. He went home. Well, you see, I'd say mind the house. Yeah, they don't have to be minded at that stage, because Clonkill,
he caught one ball there in one of the last plays. It was a magnificent fetch, and I thought it was very harsh. The referee to give him the free. It was very harsh. Now it deserved. It
deserved a free out.
He didn't deserve a free against him anyway. But I was very impressed with Derek McNicholas. I thought he rolled back the years. His performance on Saturday evening was outstanding. He's the leader there now, and they're you know, what's his name? McCrossan is very industrious and busy, and he's a how to say, a very kind of knacky kind of a player. He's always in the right place, and he's able to get a few scores, and he's great energy. And I think he's added something to him.
Well, also Ryan Williams. We said it last week. Ryan Williams, both him and McCrossan scored 2 points each against Castletown. Ryan Williams scored 3 points last weekend.
And Conor McCrossan got 1.
And there's 4 more.
And there's the 2 players that they didn't have last year, and those 4 points meant you won the game.
Both of those bring a different dynamic to the Gaels forward line, as in pace. Both of them are speedy. But then when you look at the Clonkill side, right, I thought Dar Egerton was absolutely outstanding. I thought he had a massive performance. After that, you look at Dara Kenny at 5, Mitchell really coming back into his own since he came back onto the pitch this year. Last year he did introduction of Robbie Cleary. Now you have Luke Myler and Cian Loughlin. Clonkill are coming, lads.
Yeah.
Youth coming through Clonkill, and they're breeding them, and it was a typical Frank Ahi kind of display from Clonkill, that work ethic, they never say die, they kept going, and they will be a force again in the next year or so. Yeah, definitely.
The free count was very unbalanced, I thought, on the night. Like, young Loughlin scored 10 frees, he missed none, and Dara got 1. David Williams only had 3 shots at from frees. He got 2 and he missed. Characteristically, he missed 1.
Yeah, and he got a
65. Does that mean that, like, the Gaels play on the edge? Like, they do have that physical element that they do play, I think, on the edge. And it's just something like that. Like, the frees actually kept Clonkill in the game in the first half, kept them ticking away. So it may be something that they might have a look at.
And we've always said it here, the importance of a free taker. And it didn't help us in our situation yesterday, but like Cian Loughlin's a fantastic free taker, he's well up there with one of the best in the county at the moment.
He won 12.
He did. He got 2 points in play, and he scored a 65.
Took his goal very well.
Yeah, and that was what I wanted to say. That the lead up to that goal with young Myler, a young player as well. It was, I thought, it was absolute class, where Loughlin made the back, what did they say in soccer, the back door cut, and he just threw it in off his hurl straight into him, and bang. I thought it was
a well worked goal now.
Great vision, good finish.
A lot of them probably won't know Cian Loughlin. It's tricky.
But unfortunately for Clonkill, within the space of 30 seconds, the ball was in the net.
That's right.
It's like you have to close down for that couple of minutes. Regroup.
Look, you'd be from an injury perspective, to see Dar Egerton back now at the level that he's at. It's great to see. Also Mitchell. Like, carrying injury was with the footballers and had to leave the panel because of a long-term injury, and now back performing at this level.
I'd have to echo what you were saying, Adrian, about, like, Dara's had a frustrating 2 years, like, with that injury, and I think he's nearly there, and like, he's a class hurler when he's going at his best. He's one of the best defenders in the province, I would say. He has shown over the years that he is. He's a top defender, and it's great to see him back at near his best. And I'd say he'd like to get another bit. But he's very close to it.
Then Luke was back as well, 2 points. And look, I know it's harder when you don't play hurling. It's maybe easier to adjust to playing football. But again, he showed plenty of touches, and it was again good to see him back with Clonkill as well. And in fairness to him, he's not shirking responsibility. He's taking on any game he can get. He's contributing in it. And then last night's game, lads, 24 to Iarmhi, 15 for Castletown. I would say, Adrian, to you, that was more than a 9-point win for Iarmhi. I thought they were comprehensive pictures.
Yeah, and yet again, not being anyway disrespectful, but I suppose if we were sitting here and we were talking about this as an intermediate match or a senior B match, we'd be saying, like, Castletown had a point from playing a point from a free after 21 minutes, the 21st minute when they scored to get the third score, and we'd be saying, like, it's not good enough for where is this coming from or whatever. Obviously there's big injury issues in Castletown, but you really have to credit Iarmhi here. because Castletown still had a lot of fine hurlers on the pitch. In my opinion, yet again, it's only opinion, Raharney did not allow them to hurl.
Oh no.
I think Johnny Greville and his management team actually had probably a better performance than the team themselves, in the way that they had picked their battles. They had closed down the Castletown lads, they knew the targets, and it was as fine a performance from Raharney as we've seen in a long time, and probably a performance that you expect none other than the likes of Johnny Greville on the sideline, because underperformance what Raharney have been for the last couple of years, I suppose. Yeah, and that's yet again, it's an opinion and not being any way disrespectful, but it'll leave Castletown pondering, I'd imagine. Like I'd say, Buddha is wondering, with the injuries and everything, where does he go? Towards the end of the match, I did feel Niall was struggling a bit with he seemed to be carrying a leg. Took off Jack Murphy, Peter Murphy. Dylan Corrigan. Yeah, Dylan Corrigan. Yet again, I would have left him on for the simple reason being it's his first season in championship, and let him get more and more of it. Maybe he was injured. I was on the terrace, so I don't know. But
David Lynch taken off.
Yeah, so a lot of strong Castletown hurlers coming off. If they're injured, it leaves Buddha with even more problems.
The only thing, I suppose, Adrian, there's a 4-week gap now, so it's close, like you'll have time to get
there's them. Malachis are doing well in football.
They are, yeah, that's true.
But they're not all playing football, so.
Well, I wouldn't know now, but
There's a fair scattering them playing it, all right.
like, and from my knowledge,
But anyway,
you have Connor or Peter Clark and Maloney to come back in.
I don't know what story about Maloney, because he's not even on the panel at the moment. Peter Clark definitely will be back.
Yeah.
Look at Castletown will be very disappointed. I mean, they were nearly you could nearly say it was embarrassing, because it wasn't a typical Castletown.
No.
It was as poor a display as I've seen in the last 5 years. But you have to give credit to Raharney. After 2 minutes, I had my brother, he was up from Wexford Ad, and after 2 minutes I said to him, this is going to go run riot here, because look at the intensity that Raharney were bringing to the game. And look at the way Castletown's attitude was. They were chalk and cheese. Raharney swarmed every player. They seemed to have 3 players round one every time.
Yeah.
No matter what part of the field it was. And they had the ability to win it, move it, strike it. Their striking was crisp. Now, a lot of things, I suppose, the bounce of the ball, hopped the field. I seen it, Lennon came out in front and the ball hit his hurley and he went to control it, and Joey just caught it, and Joey just hit it over his shoulder, and he must have been 45 or 50 yards out. Things like that. But it's fine. If you deserve it, you deserve it. But Raharney would have played, I'd say, as good as they have played in the last 4 years.
Absolutely have.
But the work rate was.
We were coming in yesterday. We didn't really know where we were at. We played 3 games. We played the 3 weaker teams that in the group. So yesterday was a big, how would you say, milestone. Like it really, the players were really up for this, and Johnny had them well tuned, and like the work rate from like a couple of guys didn't score yesterday, Owen Ahern or Devon Hill, but they worked their socks off, like in the tackling, and every time a Castletown player had the ball coming out of the fence, they were pressing hard up the top, and a couple of breaks, like Kieran Doyle scored some
6 points.
6 points, but they were from turnovers in the field.
Unreal.
They're great scores to get for a team when you can dispossess a player and turn over the ball and score. Like that gives you a huge boost. And Raharney got 2 or 3 of them, and Kieran I think scored, and Joey Boyle scored. But Joey Boyle has, he rolled back the years yesterday. Like he showed like his class, his fetching, his catching. Like he hasn't played like that in a long time, and
he's carried an injury though, Brendan, fairness for a while.
Yeah, he has a back injury, and but
I don't know how he didn't goal though.
He's married to a Castletown woman, so maybe that was they were even up the score. But look at that was a very positive, and it's the 4-week break now is going to be the challenge for a lot of these teams.
For everyone.
It is, and
Raharney going to the last game against Loughlin and Gales, which really is going to be.
Well, that's the decider. Like,
that's a semi-final.
Yeah.
But the Gales are in a position that they have, most of their guys are all hurlers, you know, so they'll hurl away and challenge matches, whatever. An awful lot of Raharney and Castletown lads are going to be playing football for the next 3 weeks. So there's a high risk of injuries, fatigue, tiredness, all kinds of problems are going to arise there. But this myth that at Castletown, it's their championship to lose, Castletown are in third position here, long down. I mean, Raharney and Loughlin Gales have set the bar high for this year, you know, and Castletown, irrespective of whatever injuries they have.
Lost two.
No, they have. The table doesn't lie, but the performance yesterday would not be acceptable. And look, the players, in fairness, know that. They were more disappointed probably than us looking at it, because they couldn't figure out what went wrong. These things do happen, you know, but there was no final yesterday. But the bottom line is, if they perform anywhere near like that again, well, definitely be no final.
They just have to get back on the horse.
Absolutely.
The next day and put it, what's done is done.
Yes.
And you know, go the next day and is it Delvin?
They're playing Delvin the next day, so have a word with Seamus. Tell Clinton to settle down.
If you take a look at Raharney 2 months ago, they were after losing General McKern's a full back, and where was Raharney going to find a full back? They found one. I know McKern's played yesterday at 6, but Rory Keys was
outstanding yesterday,
dominant in the square. Eamon Cunyon, Sean Quinn in the middle of the field won that battle hands down. Kieran and Killian, not alone they're striking, they're feeling the ball, and
their aerial ability was very good. But this is the best fielder of the ball in Westmeath, this Robbie Coyne, always has been. He's a brilliant young guy at catching and fielding the ball. He's the most underrated hurler, and he's been in and out with county squads. I think he gets a raw deal. He's a guy that has potential, but his ability to fetch the ball. Joey was brilliant in the air. You know, the Doyles can catch. You know, they're good hands.
Finner, well, I think, and Gary, both of them were very, very good. If you look at up front, Devin Hill covered an awful lot of ground. The tracking of him and Owen Ahern.
Yeah, like they're the two guys. Like Owen Ahern ended up in the full back line near the end of the game, and he was lying on the ground with a cramp. But that's because he was tackling. Devin Hill has been on the county senior football panel, and you can see that level of fitness that he has. He's able to cover so much ground. Like he doesn't he's not blessed with great skill, but he's a serious competitor, and he takes watching. And he's always on the move. And he's serious. You know, he can tackle as well, which is, you know, it just goes to show you that you get the ball to the shooters. And
absolutely.
You know, that's the.
I just thought that as two corner forwards. Like usually you're looking at your 10, like your 10, your 12 to be back in where Owen Ahern was, right? And there's probably lads in the terrace stand saying, "Jesus, what's Owen Ahern doing back there? Get up the field." But the work he was doing off the ball was crazy. Like
we're hoping to have Owen Keys back for the next round.
I don't know how you're going to play him.
He'd be playing all right, Adrian.
I know,
he's a hamstring injury, but again, he got that playing football. And this is the worry that Raharney would have now. That Lucan are playing 2 games the next 2 weekends, and there's 10 or 12 of those lads playing football, and you know you're going to get an injury bound to happen. Like, you know.
Just before we need to finish up, just 2 things I just want to mention. Killian Doyle's point in the first half, I think on commentary I said it was outrageous, but I know he can do that. And the second thing I want to say is great to see David O'Reilly back. As a Westmeath.
Oh yeah,
and he was still a handful.
And
first game back he was a handful.
Like he's probably it'll take him a couple of games to get up to his level, but absolutely he is top quality. Like even containing him yesterday to 4 or 5 points is an achievement. Like because he's a top player. And like he has to be, you know, the player that Westmeath need to build around for the future, because he's quality. Every day he goes out to play.
Physically now he's got bigger as well. Like, you know, one of the mentors came to us in the conversation before the match to say that he was wearing number 29 because the number 15 jersey only medium was too small. And that just shows the work that he's put in. Lads, we're going to finish up on the hurling. It's half time in the show here because we have to preview the football. We'll talk more hurling. We're going to take a break for the next 3 or 4 weeks, but that last round of games is going to be very, very interesting. We'll know a hell of a lot more about that stage anyway. Thanks again for joining us, and come back to us for the football. Looking forward to next weekend in the football after an ad break. Welcome back to the second half of episode 12 of your Be A Boo podcast. Again, quick shout out before we start with the lads to our sponsors, the Tyrewari Garage, Sinead Sheds, Gilwagon, Michael Mannion, CBRT in Athlone, Dr.ie, Clark's Bar, who are here tonight again, and KC Sports as well, another one of our sponsors. And again, just to say, next week we will be coming to you live at an earlier time of 8 o'clock, but we will come to you live from the Belvedere House outside Mullingar and Belvedere. So looking forward to that one as well, coming live there. And as I said earlier, we are available to go out, we are available to go on the road at any stage, and the lads from Belvedere got in contact with us and we have it arranged for next week. So if you fancy us calling down, giving your business a bit of a promote or whatever else, contact us here and we will have no problem going on the road again. Tonight, welcome back into Damien Maher, fresh from his honeymoon. Well done, Damien. Congratulations to yourself and your new wife. Brendan is staying with us, and Owen Jordan is back again. Great to see you again, Owen. Plenty of work still going on down in Roscommon there in Strokestown, and big game coming up this weekend, I believe, as well for you.
Yeah, we're playing St. Bridget's, so they're obviously one of the
That'll test you.
teams in the country.
That'll
So
test you.
sort the men from the boys.
Absolutely, no bother to you. Football, lads, football coming up for the next 3 weeks. It's a little bit of a, funny setup in ways, I suppose, but before I get to the whole thing of the fixtures and something, we got a question in from one of our listeners, and I'm just going to read it out and just see what do you guys make of this. Should football clubs know the format of the championship structure for next year now, so that the clubs in the mix for third and fourth group places know where they stand? Should the county board hold an emergency meeting before next weekend to let the clubs vote on the format for next year? Is that a fair question? Like, I know there was changes made last year and they were done at the end of the whole thing, and teams were just left in the groups that they finished up in. Should the format be dealt with before we finish the championship so that clubs know?
No.
No?
It's in rule here. I just read out so.
Yeah, no, it's just a question from a viewer.
Yeah, I'll clarify that. So I just looked it up today just before I come in about this. It's code 11.1 and talks about county championships. So this is the way the county championships are structured it instructs county committees how to draw up their competition regulations. Yeah. And there's a couple of things. It says a regulation once adopted shall remain in force unless altered or deleted by a simple majority of those present entitled to vote and voting. So every year there's the competition regulations. It used to be historically called the planning meeting.
Okay.
So where the format of the championships are voted on, and that's done annually. And the only way that can be changed is with a vote. But historically, once the regulation is set out at the start of the year, that's it for the year.
Yeah.
So next year, the whoever is drawing up the competition regulations for the 2027 championship will propose that to the county committee, and the committee will vote on it then for next year. So it's prospective activity. You can't, we have to finish 2026.
Yeah, I know. I think that question is really that they're not questioning 2026, but for 27, would it be better if the clubs knew now what your format was going to be, or instead of just playing on like what happened last year, where teams maybe would have been better to have remained in the second tier and get the third position to get into a knockout stage? I don't know. I think that's the way that question is coming. Okay. Should they know long in advance? Because I think, am I right in saying the format for the championship here was voted in for 1 year and then a review?
So
at the
this
end
is done every year, Ray.
Yeah.
So every year the competition regulations are adopted at a county committee meeting, and that's generally held at the end of January. So the clubs know in advance then from the start of the year what the competitions are going to look like. So we all knew last February or January, whenever it was, that this new format was coming in for 2026. That's not to say that format is going to be in place for next year.
Yeah.
So a club is perfectly entitled to bring a proposal to county convention and make a recommendation to go back to the format that was there in 2025 or some other format.
What's the format? How many senior teams in Roscommon?
12. So
three groups of four, is it?
They
No?
had the Westmeath, the previous structure that Westmeath had last year was in Roscommon. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they went away from it. So personally, I don't like it at all because there's the potential to be drawn to skip rounds and various permutations like that. So how it works is there's 3 groups of 4. The bottom teams in each group will play, say 2 teams will play a relegation semi-final and 1 goes straight to relegation final. The top teams, so the top 3 teams are seeded in pot 1, say. You're then drawn, the 3 second place teams are drawn out of a hat, and 1 of them will also be seeded, so there's 4 seeded teams in pot 1. You then have a combination team called North Roscommon, so all the junior and intermediate clubs are, I suppose, allowed enter players into that team, similar to maybe Kerry or something. So the 3 third place teams play a preliminary quarter final alongside North Roscommon. So the 2 winners of that plus the 2 remaining second place teams go into, say, the unseeded pot, and they're drawn out as the 4 quarter finalists
Against the top 3 and the other seeded team.
I suppose one of the things I do like about it is there's a kind of a home, neutral and an away element to it. And I suppose we played Western Gales in their home ground, and like the whole village was kind of rolling behind, and you could see the pride in them having a senior championship game in their local grounds that might not get maybe if there wasn't that arrangement. So
that arrangement's kind of going in Offaly as well, I think, isn't it?
They certainly have it in Donegal. Certainly, they have that format as well.
Can you see that happen here?
Well, I don't know. Like most of the club grounds are like the senior clubs have good grounds. I think they would be able to host those games. It's possibly it's certainly like I was in Milltown last weekend at a fine ground, and any of the like most of the clubs have good ground, well capable of hosting games.
Yeah, I'm just thinking around the various grounds at Lone, Gary Castle.
I suppose the only thing on the actual structure itself, look at Roscommon, probably to the same degree is not a dual county. Now they have, I suppose, a hurling championship running at the moment, but like a lot of the emphasis will be on football. And you know, if you take Clonagale for example, like they've played 2 games and their season is over in terms of qualifying. They're in relegation already. I think your general club player deserves more than maybe potentially 3 championship games. It's a long, with the split season and so on, you're still going back in kind of January, February. You have a long league campaign. I understand in Westmeath, like I suppose there's a lot of talk maybe around the amount of games that junior players are playing. I do, and I think I might use this example a couple of years ago when maybe there was talk about like Tyg Baker was the example I used, right? So Tyg now has probably played 20 senior championship games over the last 4 or 5 years, and that has like probably springboarded his development to where he is now playing senior football at Westmeath. If you were to have maybe 3 games per year, he might only be at maybe 9 or 10, half of that. And maybe, and also the fact that in Westmeath you have to be over 18 to play adult football. Maybe the more games that they do get at senior championship level, you're accelerating that development because they're not playing as a 17-year-old.
Yeah, good point. Anyway, that was just a question we got in from a listener there, so I think Brendan has nailed that one for us anyway. Games coming up this weekend, we'll go in reverse order. Junior 2 championship. Now again, we obviously are not going to be up to speed with everyone these, but in the Junior 2 Section A we've no games this weekend because there's only 4 teams, so they're idle for this week. Section B, St Mary's Bridge versus Colliery. That's on Sunday at 11 o'clock in Colliery, home venue there. And Mullingar Shamrock versus Thirds Pass, again home game for Mullingar on Sunday at 11 o'clock. Gary Castle get the bye in that group. Junior 2, look, I think we've said it often enough, it's a good competition for these second string teams. The sole teams are in Section A, so they're sitting back. Our friends in Loughlin Valley now regrouping, getting ready for the next game. Delvin as well, after their hurling win, they'll be hopeful to get the football show on the road now again, and maybe push on and get to a final or knockout stage of that competition. Junior 1, Section A, some big games coming up here now this weekend. Kilbeggan Shamrock versus St. Joseph's. And I have to see what I can check my diary for Friday evening. That might be worth a call. That one's in Kinnegad at 8 o'clock, I suppose, with the option of the lights there as well. St. Paul's versus Bunbrusna, that's on Saturday evening in Killucan at 2 o'clock. And Ballycarrigy versus Mullingar Shamrocks in Killucan at 3:30. So again, a nice double header there as well. And in Section B, the Down versus St. Lomans, Killucan versus Moore, and Athlone versus Coruscant Kinnegad. They're all on Friday evening, home venue accounts. They're all at 8 o'clock. So I think the Downs, Killucan and Athlone all have lights. So again, it gives the option to push games on a Friday night and get the games played. But that game, just starting with Section B and Down, that Downs Lomans game is the top of the table clash. So that's going to, it'll be important for the team to finish 1 there, because they'll go across and play 4 on the other side. So big game in that championship as well.
Yeah, and I suppose it'll be interesting to see maybe who they've used in the senior championship or that are maybe ineligible now, or if they're looking at Lomans maybe potentially pushing on to win it. They might be, to a degree, kind of trying to protect their junior team as well. So it'll certainly, I suppose, the winner of that will probably finish top, as you're saying. And they'll play 4 in Section A.
Yeah. Killucan Moore, Brendan, Killucan doing well.
Killucan have 2 wins in that championship. They're playing Moat this weekend at home. So Moat and Coruscant Kinnegad have no points. So I think Killucan would be, if they could win that game on Friday night, it would guaranteed them a quarter-final position. And they haven't ever qualified for a quarter-final in the junior one. No.
Yeah.
So that would be an achievement for them. I'm not sure, is Athlone, who are they playing?
Kinnegad.
Okay, it's the 4th place in this group really that's up for grabs.
It is really,
like Athlone have 2 points at the moment, Kinnegad have none. So if Kinnegad were to win that, they'd have Athlone in the head-to-head. And so I think that's the battle in that group, is for the 4th position. And obviously, like St. Lomans and the Downs will be battling it out for top spot. And then they'll have what would you expect to be an easier draw in the quarter final against the 4th team in Section A. But
that Section A though is getting very, very interesting now, because Kilbeggan are top of the table at the minute with 3 wins and 3. Mullingar, St. Joseph's and Ballycarrigy all on 4 points, and Bun and St. Paul's yet to get off the mark. Now Bun and Paul's play each other, so one of them is going to go, well, maybe not how one of them is going to go, because you could have a draw there, but one of them has the possibility of going to Kilbeggan Shamrocks and Joseph. Those the big games, the local derby here as well. Damien, will you be out there? We'll go to Kinnegad and we go for a drive.
Night, definitely. It's a game worth going to, and it's a nice one to kick off a key weekend. St. Joseph's will be looking to bounce back. They were beaten in the last round, 115-6 by Ballycarrigy. But they certainly, they're up there, I think, and right in the mix. And just how they react to that defeat now is going to be crucial. And I think, the sight of a Kilbeggan Shamrocks jersey is going to bring out another 10%.
There should be enough,
in St. Joseph's,
Yeah, Kilbeggan are going well. Nigel Adamson remained on there. Oh, and you probably know him fairly well as well. And he's steadied the ship there. And probably what Kilbeggan needed to have him come down was a sort of a steady hand there to guide them. But they've done as good as they can possibly do, 3 from 3. And if they get the win, they'll definitely be looking at the top place in that table. And like we say, it becomes so important then with the crossover draw.
Yeah, I think probably traditionally over the years that 4th spot has gone to Athlone in the junior one, and we've played the likes of Multi and a few teams like that. I've finished first and been on the receiving end of a few tough beatings there. So I'd say a win for Kilbeggan there. They're probably looking at, as I said, they're 4th in Section B in the junior one. Would be certainly an easier game. And I think even just looking at the previous round, like St. Joseph's only had 3 scorers. Like Jordan McDonald got 6 points, and I think Frankie Day and Dylan McDonald got the 2 goals. So certainly if they're to if they're to overturn Kilbeggan, they'll probably need a bigger spread of scores there just to spread the load from Jordan McDonald. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah. Damien, your own home team, Ballycarrick against Mullingar. It's going to be a tough one as well for Bal because they're both on 4 points. So a win would really consolidate. Even though I think like that group just seems to be separated a little bit with 2 games to go in it. But Bal have Anthony Maher. We spoke about him. He's steadied the ship there now, coming in late into taking them over, and they're doing well.
Absolutely, and they'll be delighted with the victory over St. Joseph's because they would have went in there as based on form, based on last year's run and based on form. They would have went in as underdogs. St. Joseph's would quite rightly have been fancied, and to hold them to 2-6 was a good achievement. Now, I suppose the big question is going to be asked: can they build on that performance? And you can bet your life that they'll have been putting in a renewed effort since. And a bit of momentum can change things, and especially I know in Bal they're a proud club, but when they get a little bit of momentum going,
they can be dangerous.
They feel that anything is possible. Now they are going to encounter a different kind of challenge here. Mullingar Shamrocks have been putting up big scores. There are obviously plenty of quality there, young, fit, strong players. So it's going to be a different kind of challenge for Ballycarrick, this one. And it will be interesting to see just
how they cope.
Yeah, how they emerge. I would say they're probably outsiders again going into it. But if they can build on that performance and that victory over St. Joseph's, you would say they can really test Mullingar Shamrocks.
Any hope for Boner Paul's lads? No points won. Even for one of them to get 2 points, I suppose it'll keep them away from relegation. I suppose is probably if you're not going to get out of the group, well, that's the next best thing to be going into a relegation game, crossing over.
You're playing the bottom team in the other section. It's a tough one there now. Whoever loses that, it looks like they'll be in that position.
Paul's, did well to win Junior 2 last year. Didn't drive on the same as Ballinagore did from the year before, but look at dual players probably as well. It's hard to keep the thing going, but probably a step up there because like those junior teams, they're strong junior teams there. In fairness to them,
like the likes of Kilbeggan and even Ballycarrick would have big panels.
Yeah.
Like Paul's would be a very tight panel. Like the numbers just wouldn't be there, and especially if they're a dual, like with a lot of dual players. Like it's just a big ask now to consolidate that position there in the junior one this year.
Yeah, well, look at this. There's some cracking matches in that section A there. As I said, Kilbeggan, Shamrocks and Joseph. That's Friday night in Kinnegad at 8 o'clock. Paul's and Bunbrusna is on Saturday in Killucan at 2, followed by Ballycarrick and Mullingar at 3:30. That's a double header in Killucan. Moving on, intermediate championship, lads. Section A. Big games here. So Malachy's versus Shandona. That's on Saturday in TG Cusack Park at 3:15. Milltown versus Castledaly on Sunday in Castlegagan at 1 o'clock. And Multifarnham versus Milltown Pass on Sunday in TG Cusack Park at 3:15 as well on Sunday. Then Section B, Ballymore versus St Mary's Rochford Bridge in the Downs on Saturday at 29th at 3:30. Rosemont versus Castlefinae Cool Whitehall in Shandona on Sunday at 1 o'clock, and Maryland versus Ballinagore in Moat at 3:15. Looking at that Section B, it's an interesting table in that one. Ballymore topped the table, and I think that's probably a surprise in itself after 3 games, but credit to them, they've beaten what's in front of them. And then you have Rochford Bridge, Rosemont, Ballinagore with 4. Maryland and Castlefinae yet to get off the mark. So games this weekend, like that Maryland Ballinagore game, is a crucial game as well, because Ballinagore will be hoping to push it on, and Maryland will be looking to get out of that bottom place, hoping that Rosemont will beat Castlefinae and leave them sort of in a position where they're avoiding a relegation game going into it. And then Ballymore and Rochford Bridge, then the winner of that is probably going to top the table. So this championship is starting to get interest now. We're kind of coming at the old golf and parlance of moving day now at this stage.
Yeah, a good achievement for Ballynagore, to be in this position now. Look, they're playing a very experienced outfit now in Maryland, but they haven't won the last day. They'll certainly fancy their chances here, and of course 3 teams coming out of this group now makes it very interesting indeed. But Rosemount playing Castleton-Finacul at all, is that correct?
Who have no points, so
you would expect that they'll get back on the horse again and back to winning ways.
Yeah, just on that, Ray, I brought in the rules there just for people. To explain how teams are ranked. So I suppose the first thing is like this is rule 11.1 or code 11.1. The higher number of league points obtained in the head-to-head games defined as the games which the teams involved in the tie have played each other. So it's the head-to-head game. So if 2 teams, whichever team won, they go above. If you have 3 teams, then you have to go to another. You can't use the head-to-head on the 3 games. So in the scenario where you have 3 or more teams tied, then you use the higher scoring difference in the head-to-head games only. So that means you have a little mini league, and you scores for and scores against, and the team with the higher scoring difference in those head-to-head games is then they rank them in that order then. And if, for example, there were a draw, say there was 3 teams tied and 2 of those teams had a draw game, you go for the higher scores in the head-to-head games as the next criteria.
Okay.
It's very interesting in both in Tipperary and Clare hurling last weekend. That happened, and say there was the mini league with it was Borrisalee, Lockmore and Clonalty, and there was 1 point separated the 3 in the mini league. Borrisalee were +1, Lockmore, Castleton were 0, and Clonalty were -1, and it happened in Clare as well with Wolftones, 6 Mile Bridge and Newmarket. So like I know Buddha does be talking about it, like they have to be separated somehow, and there's a number, I know Brendan has them read out there, and number 7 is a playoff, so like the high likelihood is that they'll be separated before it comes to the 7th.
So it says that, so if we can't separate them on the mini league, then if say they're the same, you look at the higher scores in the head-to-head games. That's the next one. You apply that criteria and see where they rank then. And if those criteria above they can't be used to separate them, then you look at the higher scoring difference in all games in the league group. It's the next one you use, and then you look at the higher scores for all in all games to determine who's in the ranking, and then if that can't be used, then you go to the playoff as well.
Well, look, as somebody asked me, a high-ranking county board official, having a laugh at me, asked, did you sort out on the podcast how you're going to separate those teams? And I said, not our problem. That's up to you guys.
One thing I would say, like, this cannot be done until we have the 5 rounds played. So, it's all academic at the moment. Yeah. These are just the rules that will have to be used when the 5 rounds are played. So, like, looking at the tables now, we all know they're going to change in the next 2 rounds. Yeah. So, trying to rank them now, tie teams, it's of no value.
But you look at those intermediate tables, like you have Ballymore on 6, and then you have the next 3 teams are on 4. Like, so one of them would be going out of the championship as such, and 2 of them staying in it. If it ends it remains the same way. Now, look, it's highly unlikely probably that it will happen, even though, as you say, Owen, it can happen, and that's in hurling, which you would say probably there's a lesser chance of it happening.
I know I've been involved in Athlone there the last couple of years. We've been separated, and it went for us a couple of years and went against us other years, and that's the rules that are set out, and we all know that, as Brendan said back in February. So
and so these were the when the competition regulations were approved, these were they were
added to it. Is that a Croke Park?
That's a national. So count like Tipperary or Meath or Galway, they would all use this criteria for a championship on a league basis. Yeah.
Right.
There's also the possibility, like if Maryland were to get a win this weekend over Ballinagore, like they'd go to the Ballinagore in a head-to-head going into the last round, they can still get to 4 and catch Ballinagore. So there's, as Brendan said, look, it's all ifs and buts at this stage.
One thing is, I suppose, you cannot be relegated on the head-to-head. So if two teams finish on the same point at the bottom of the table, there's a playoff.
Yeah. Which I think is only fair anyway.
Yeah. So we had a scenario a couple of years ago, I think, in hurling, where there was a relegation playoff and it went to extra time and penalties, and it was decided on the penalties. So
St. Malachy's tying last year was
exactly. So that's not a nice situation to be in, but look, that's the rule.
That's the rule. Section A, the intermediate. Local derby kind of really here between St. Malachy's and Shandona. It's on Saturday in TG Cusack Park at 3:15. And then on Sunday you have Milltown versus Castledaly, that's in Castledown-Geoghegan at 1 o'clock, and then Multy-Farnham and Milltown Pass in TG on Sunday at 3:15. Now what I've been looking at here, these fixtures, now they're on the Westmeath website, is, we're playing games now on a Saturday at midday, like, and earlier even. Sunday 1 o'clock, Saturday 3 o'clock. Like it's some commitment for lads, isn't it, anymore?
Yeah. But I suppose, to be fair,
you have to get them in. I know, Brendan.
To be fair, like, the evenings are shortening up now. Like, and these games all have to be played. You can't play them all on Sunday.
No.
So like, and that has been the case for many years, that these games are played on the Saturday. So I think people will just have to expect fixtures going forward now for the next, whatever it is, 8 or 10 weeks, to be earlier on Saturday.
Yes, it's hard. It's hard on lads, but look at them, so they're getting notified in advance or whatever. Anyway, look at the first game there, Malachy's and Shandona. Now, two of these 5 points from 3 games, a draw there from. You fancy Shandona? Like, I presume Danny Scahill will be back with them this weekend.
I was just looking at a few of their marquee players, if you like, Conor McCross, Tom Malloy, Danny Scahill, Adam Traynor, like Brian Kavanagh has 230 scored across the 3 games so far. Like, so Malachy's will have to get a handle on the likes of them. Like, and there's even the likes of Ryan Donnelly and these boys can chip in with scores. So, having said that, Malachy's have put up big scores. Like, they're, again, if it does come down to scoring difference, like they're plus 24 at the moment. Like, and that's why they're top of the table with the best scoring difference. So, like, I think that'll be a right cracker of a game. It definitely be one I'd be trying to get into, and it's very difficult to call a winner there. I do think there's a potential they might meet again. The winner will probably have one foot in the semi-final as well.
Yeah, I think so.
I think, as the boys were saying, the hurling, if you can skip a quarter-final, you have a better chance of maybe having to only win 2 games rather than 3. So. Yeah,
it's very, very much so. That has the makings of a cracking match now. Inter-county players sprinkling them, like Shane Corcoran with Malachy's, and is it 2 or 3 with Shandona, Alan Traynor, Danny Scahill back with them.
Tom Malloy.
And I was just watching Shandona earlier on, the championship against Milltown. It was an absolutely superb match. Shandona will be probably a little bit disappointed now to have Danny Scahill to come back in. Okay, they did win the last day against Multy-Farnham, but
pushed.
I think there were probably more questions than answers afterwards, because they had a huge lead in that game, and that has kind of been the story of their season. So it started off in the league final where they had this huge lead, and suddenly they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to see it out. And the problem was still there. Now they will hope that a player of Danny Scahill's experience and quality to come back in is going to help them consolidate. I think this is a big test for them, because St. Malachy's probably came in a little bit under the radar into this championship, but they have many years senior experience and plenty of quality, and they had a certain David Lynch just happened to come back into the side then this year just to strengthen it up. So I think that's a serious test for Shandona, and it's very much a 50-50 game, I think.
Milltown have looked good in the last couple of games. They're playing Castledaly with no points. You would expect a win from
I think
Milltown
so,
on that one, wouldn't you?
Yeah, Castlelady were very poor the last day, and Milltown are motoring along well. I think they'll come through there.
Yeah.
Milltown are the form team so far.
Yeah.
Now it can be hard to maintain that. Like, and I know I said in the last one about I don't think Jack Duncan played in hurling last week.
No, he didn't. He wasn't there.
Like, you know, and the likes of Conor Lynn and Luke Gunning and Ben McGorn and Jack's brother Henry Duncan, like they probably have enough quality probably to get a win there. Again, maybe put one foot in a semi-final and have Jack backfire. And then
I was going to say they're probably looking at a situation where if they can arrest him.
Were the two Murtals playing the last day?
No, neither of them. I think. Am I correct in saying that one of them is? Yeah, that's right. I heard someone saying that.
Yeah, you find Conor Gibney's going very well there, centre back for them. Like, he's a real solid player. And, you know,
they're probably the team that kind of has been progressing, building, if you like. Whereas, the others, they have their victories too. The St. Malachy's and Shandona, they have their 2 victories each. But you know, I would say probably the more impressive in terms of kind of incremental improvement has been Milltown. And amazingly, in that first round game, you know, at times they looked well out of it, and they were well out of it, but the class of Jack Duncan, all right, was a big thing in that, and Conor Gibney at centre back.
He's excellent.
Yeah.
Jack Duncan is the X factor here for them, because they used him against Milltown Pass at a time when, you know, the game was tight. And he only came on, like he's carrying a hamstring injury, it looks like, because I think in the previous game he ripped off the bandage, and then they introduced him then just to get themselves over the line, because it was tight enough coming down against Milltown Mass. Now, I would think that they would look and say, right, if we can afford to sit him, he didn't play last weekend, if he can sit for another week, it might just give him, you know, if they can get the win over Castlelady without him, it might just be enough to get him ready for heading in, because there's no doubt they're going. For me, they're going to go into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Well,
I would expect that. Sure.
Yeah. I think on paper, like their starting 15 is very, very strong across the board. Like, there's no weak player there. Maybe, I'm not sure, do they have the depth of the likes of the Malachy's or Shandona? So if they can avoid a quarter final, you know, and get the likes of Jack back, if you know you're avoiding a quarter final, you're avoiding potential more injuries, you can wrap lads up in cotton wool, I suppose. And you know, as I said, they're probably the form team. It can be hard sometimes to maintain that, as the boys said in the hurling. You know, the weather's probably going to change soon enough and stuff, but
pitches will get softer and whatever else.
Big game too for Milltown Pass now, just because
and Multy-Farnham, because
go
on, Damien.
Against Multi, and Multi played very well the last day. Chatting to Roland Wallace afterwards, he was delighted with the way they played, and Roland played very well himself in that game. So Milltown Pass are probably looking at themselves here and wondering, you know, how we fought here, because they were well ahead against St. Malachy's in that game and only got a draw. Is that correct? Only got a draw in that game, a game they really should have won. So now suddenly they're out of the top 3. They need to recover, and this is going to be a big test, I think, against Multy-Farnham. You would fancy a more probably on paper a better balanced Milltown Pass side to come through, but I'd say Multy-Farnham are not going to go down without a massive fight here.
Yeah. Milltown Pass struggled in the last game. They lost Liam O'Reilly during the game, and just he was a huge player for them. He's a big man in the middle of the field, and they just seem to go over it. Like, and even at that, like, you know, Brandon against Milltown Pass, Brandon was held well. He did get in for a goal early, but you know, the man marked him and kept him out of it. Like, you know, like Milltown were
that was an eye-catching victory for Milltown.
It was, yeah.
In fairness,
because I think. Did Milltown Pass only score something like 3-5, 3-6? Like,
but they'd put up
big
massive scores in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
And I suppose, like, Brandon, you'd see maybe in league games and stuff, when he does play in the league with them, would put up big scores, and he's a massive goal threat. And I think I saw like 2 Coogans there and Emmett Brennan and guys, like, there was a good number of scores and maybe new names to me, and then you'd include the likes of Finn Marcoyne and stuff. So, like, as Damien says, there might be a better balance to the Milltown Pass team. They can get themselves back on track there, because while they won the first day out, you know, they drew the second game, lost the third game. You know, it really is a big test for them now. I don't think Multi are going to, you know, while they're out of the championship, I don't think they'll throw in the towel. You know, they'll put up a fight. They'll want to get a win on the board for their season. So it's definitely a big test for Milltown Pass.
Yeah, because probably two more rounds this week and the following. Like, yeah, a loss for Multi will relegate them as such then anyway, because you know they'll have Milltown Pass will have 5, and you know, and all the rest of them will, you know, have that, and Multi then with no points, and that's
a key game for them.
That will finish their season as such. Now,
Multi will throw everything at this, because if it's the only, it's their last, they're in the last chance alone here. There's no other way of putting it. Like they have to get a win here to salvage something from the season. Like big games on for everyone for different reasons there as well. The Section B, can you see anyone in Section B troubling like those top 3 teams? Like, you know, the form at the minute says Malachy's, Milltown, Shandona. Can you see anyone out of the other 3 team, the other tier, troubling them in the knockout stages? Ballymore, Rochester Bridge, Rosemotor, Ballynagore, probably the contenders. Is there a step up there? Yeah, there is.
There is. Look, there's no point saying otherwise. I haven't seen St Mary's play. They've been putting up big scores. As I said, I keep an eye on them now in the junior too after seeing them. But you know, I know. But I said the last day did a lad full forward from Cavan, Caroline guys. So you know, Alan Mullen and the boys have done great work in Ballymore. Obviously, Father Dalton's had a bit of a setback there at the weekend. I think they will have to beat Clonkill to force potentially a playoff in hurling. You know, they'll maybe want to push on to get a win, maybe potentially rest guys for the following week, with potentially playing 3 weeks in a row. But look, it's hard. We talked last week about there potentially being a top 4 in Section A, and then a gap to the rest of the Interleague Championship, and that includes probably the 3 that come out of Section B.
Yeah, and look, that championship is going to be competitive, and there'll be twists and turns and that before we crown the champion in October as well as that. Moving on to the senior football this weekend, Section B this time. More All Whites versus Terrace Pass. That's in TG Cusick Park on Saturday, 5 o'clock. Athlone versus Killucan, that's in Rochester Bridge on Sunday at 1 o'clock, and Tuberclare versus Tang on Sunday in TG Cusick Park, 5 o'clock. Look at Tuberclare and Tang. Now that's a real local derby, isn't it? Owen, you'd know the geography better than I do. With you know, Tang, you know, battled well against Moore the last time, kept themselves in the game for a long time. But Tuberclare seemed to be a surprise package. Maybe not. That's surprise, not the right word, but they seem to be the real deal coming out of intermediate football.
Yeah, I was talking to Niall Walker after the Tuberclare Killucan game, and he was saying that probably for his generation and maybe before this current team, that like Tang was always like a real battle, a local derby, like there'd be no love lost, I'd say, between, you know, they're on the border with each other there, and you know, very close together. Tang, to be fair, have been very competitive in all the games they've played. Tuberclare possibly will be looking at it that if they can win that, they're, you know, probably will finish in the top 2 to go up to Section A next year. They will have the possibility, you know, of with 3 games back to back, that in round 5, if there's a guy with a bit of a niggle or they don't need to risk, or they might get game time into Matthew Whittaker and so on. So, and look at knowing Daniel and Keith and the boys there and the players, like there'll be nothing only winning this weekend in their minds, you know.
And what's the prognosis with Matthew Whittaker?
Well, he's been participating in the warm-ups. He's been fully togged. You know, with him, brilliant attitude. He'd be ready to go whenever he's called upon. They're probably at the stage now where they can introduce him gradually, you know, if and when he's needed. But to have a player the calibre of Matthew Whittaker to come back now, it's a fair boost to anything. Yeah, and even if it's only at the knockout stage, even if he doesn't play for the next 2 weeks, I'm sure they'd like to get game time, but they'll mind him. I'm sure they won't introduce him unless he's ready to go. Really. And
they're in a great position here to qualify. Now of course that will be a test, and Tanger
fighting for their lives.
Yeah, nothing to lose here. They're just going to throw everything at it, and you'd expect a very spirited performance. But Tuberclare, you'd expect firm favourites going into that game.
You'd have to.
And what they've achieved has been impressive.
And they have talent. Like we've mentioned the players, like
And the thing they have as well, and maybe the new game suits it. Owen would probably be involved in coaching, but the physical presence that they have in different areas is a huge factor.
Yeah,
for
like
them.
I was in Milltown there 2 weeks ago, and I was very impressed with them. Like as Damien says, they're a very athletic big team, and the new rules really do suit them. Like they have quality everywhere, and they're in a great position there now. Another win, and they're almost guaranteed. Knockout football and promotion.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be going all out. But saying that, like Tang will be Tang, they'll battle this out. But I would expect Tuberclare to win there.
Tom Burke again is another young player. They have any word on his injury, or is it long term, or are you aware of that?
ACL. Liam Staunton is another. He was part of the under-20 panel this year. Westmeath, he's another ACL.
Yeah, right.
I think there's an epidemic across the country of ACLs. Reading a few things today.
I think the hard ground is probably not helping.
Gavin Delaney wasn't playing the last either.
No, he just chatting to Gary Connaughton before the game. He I'm not sure who it was in the. Who they played in the previous round before that?
They played Moat.
They played the Thurles Pass game. He collided with a guy. He just kind of in his chest. He got some sort of a bang in his chest, and just took him. He wasn't recovered, I suppose, in time. So having him to come back again,
he'll come into another contention this weekend. Yeah, Tang will be facing up to it there, right? Another game in that Athlone and Killucan in Rocher Bridge on Sunday at 1 o'clock. Now again, looking at the table here, Athlone with 4, Killucan with 3. So the winner of this is kind of going to, I think a win for Athlone will put them into the top 3, won't it?
Well, I suppose look at they're third on points at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it'll guarantee them. They'll get to 6 points. I suppose Killucan will still have 3.
3 and only 1 game left.
Look at it's a massive game for both teams. I hadn't seen a whole lot of Killucan because, in recent years, Killucan were in Section A, we're not Athlone, we're Section B, and maybe we went up when they came down, and we just hadn't played each other. But I know Devon Hill is probably the big name, and Sammy Clark there, but even the likes of them and Caneen there. I know Raharney are flying and hurling, which probably will help. Sean Leach, I know he's choring, but they're going well. Rory Keys, Owen Ahern, Sean Quinn, they have a right spread of team. Their second team are really progressing. So did they win a minor maybe 4 or 5 years ago? They're starting to come through now.
Yeah, they won the 2020. Sean Leach and those guys.
So them guys now are 23, 24.
They won the minor during COVID, and that's 6 years ago now. So they're all at that age, 24. So they're coming at the right age.
I know Alan has said it a number of times how impressed he has been with them, and I thought they were the better team against Tuberclare. I know Tuberclare battled and did. Owen McCabe kicked 11 points and was probably the difference on the day. But Killucan have a right good spread of good players across the pitch. Defensively they're solid. They're battle hardened team. They'll probably fancy taking on Athlone. It's probably a 50-50 game, but I know the last time we played them over in Kinnegad, they beat us and comprehensively beat us in a championship game. So it's definitely one that I suppose people will be looking forward to on Sunday.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a tight game. There's going to be very little in that, and it's. I don't think we've had one draw in this group. Killucan drew the first game against Thurles Pass, but I couldn't separate Killucan and Athlone out there. But it's a vital game, a win for either team there. It sets them up nicely then for the last round.
Gives the advantage there. Athlone, I know you're on the outside looking in now, but injury-wise, Ray Connellan still in good health. Shane Allen, they're the big players we all familiar with. All in good shape. Yeah,
look, as far as I know, they are. I know Stephen O'Connor, who he's definitely one of the top scorers in across the senior championship. He scored a penalty, and he just with the next kick out, he got a I suppose he was involved in a collision. He got a shoulder injury, and he'll be massive loss if he's not available. I can't say one way or the other. He's the only injury concern that I'm aware of.
Owen Keys
is out for Killucan. He done the hamstring in one of the games. I can't remember which of the games, but he's certainly not available. He's a big guy, a big physical presence there. So he's generally in the middle of the field there, where you'd need him against Ray Connellan and Shane Allen, like
without a bit of piggery.
Yeah, exactly.
The other last game in that group, lads. Are we surprised to see Terrace Pass in the position they're in to play Mothall Whites? Terrace Pass only, draw, as you said, Brendan, the first game. Probably were lucky to even get that day. Moat turned it around, 2 wins from the 3 games. Like looking at the form there, you're probably going to you have to tip Mothall Whites to win this one.
Yeah, I think you would. Terrace Pass got a bit of a tank in the last day against, who did they play the last day?
Well, that alone beat them by a few points.
Yeah.
Tuberclare really put them to the sword.
Yeah.
A lot of injuries out there. I know
like well. Dennis Dennon's a big loss, and I'm not sure whether he's available now for.
David has been injured as well.
So
Peter Clark will be coming back. I think it's I wouldn't write off Thurles Pass. Like they'll come all guns blazing for that. Like the challenge for Moat is no more than Killucan, who. Moat have probably won a minor around that, maybe the year before Killucan. They won an under-20 championship 2 or 3 years ago. Like, they've won their last 2 games, they've got good momentum. Can they go and put 3 wins back-to-back, put themselves into the knockout stage? Because, as I said previously, they won the intermediate a couple of years ago, and they've been in Section B ever since. Like, they haven't managed to get out of Section B. So that was
close once, and he wasn't.
Was there a penalty in the last minute against Colorado? And they were very unlucky. I think they were knocked out on 7 points that year, which was very unfortunate. But Thurles Pass have huge experience. You've Peter Clark come back, you've Jamie to come back, you've the likes of Nigel Hart potentially there, Evan Connell, Peter Pearson. I just think it's not. I don't think it's as cut and dried as Moat will win. Anyways, that's for sure.
Yeah.
No, the table probably doesn't lie. I mean, okay, they have had injury problems, but they'll be concerned about where they're sitting. And there's no doubt about it. Massive game. You would think that with the likes of Robbie Ford and the scores that Mothall Whites have been putting up, and the fact that this new game tends to suit them, that they probably have the edge here. But it's second against 5th, but that won't account for much when the battle begins. Moat will have to battle to win it. You probably would fancy them overall, but I would say very little between Mothall Whites and Thurles Pass.
Yeah, am I right in saying it's Thurles Pass and Tang in the last game?
Yes.
If you go back to the old word there, jeopardy, like if the loser of this game, like if Moat were to lose, like they have to play Killucan in the last game and they won't, that'll be again probably winner take all. Killucan, Moat won't fancy having to play Killucan in a winner take all game. On the flip side, if Thurles Pass are to lose, they won't fancy playing Tang in a winner take all game. 2
huge rounds coming.
There's in that group. And
the players are only human too, and the clubs and the teams are only human. I know the managers will be saying be focused on this is one game at a time. At the back of their minds, they're going to be saying, well, they're going to be looking at the permutations here and saying, if we slip up here, then we're really in. But it's kind of going to be played like that, I think. It's 2 massive rounds coming at you.
Yeah, just talking to some of the Thurles Pass lads, and never you playing with them, and when you lose games, it's a horrible feeling, and it's very hard to break it. Then the more than a winning streak, you can keep it going. A losing streak, when you are on the receiving end of it, it can be tough just to turn around, and it won't be easy for them to turn that around again on Sunday against Moat. And I lost them for Thurles Pass, and really you wonder then who has the heart for the dogfight then for a relegation game. Like Terence Pastor Senior, what do we say? Many semi-finals since 2000, some crazy number, like, you know.
Definitely.
And it's just hard when you go to the other end of the table, and it can be just a psychological thing of battle it, you know. Anyway, 3 great games in store. We'll get a better idea Sunday evening. Section A, lads. These games, you know, this is so tight. On Saturday, St. Lomond versus Coruscant Kinnegad. Now, this game is in the Downs at 5 o'clock on Saturday evening. Mullingar Shamrocks versus Garrycastle in Rocher Bridge on Sunday at 2:30, and Colliery versus the Downs in Moat on Sunday at 5 o'clock. Strange, I suppose, in some ways that none of the 3 games played in TG Cusick Park and that too, but the Lomans Coruscant Kinnegad game on the Downs, now that is going to have, you know, huge permutations. Like Lomans have 3 points, but haven't won and haven't lost. 3 draws, like, and the odds of that at the start to throw in would have been, you know, very long, I would imagine. But
yeah, and they'll wonder, they'll reflect, and I suppose will have been reflecting. I mean, they were in a winning position against Garrycastle, no doubt about that. They got 2 goals, and you know, the Lomans team that were in 11 finals would have won that match, but you know, time, I suppose, is catching up with them a little bit, number one, and number two, they didn't have Ron O'Toole at centre forward in that game. You know, some of the pull the strings when you needed it in the last 10 minutes. Garrycastle had to dig in and get 4 points, and they duly did, and great credit to them for that. But I think St. Lomans are up against it now on the back of that result, and the fact that they've had the number of draws that they've had. There's obviously going to be a question mark at the back of their minds. They have quality all over the pitch, no doubt about that, plenty of experience, but have they enough to avenge last year's defeat by Coruscant Kinnegad in the semi-final? That's the big question.
Frustration seemed to be the overriding feeling, David. I don't know if you've interviewed anyone after that game, but it seemed to be from the Lomans supporters, management and players. They just seemed to be frustrated that they had thrown away another opportunity to get a win there. But Coruscant Kinnegad are top of the table, lads, 2 wins and a draw. Like they look at this and say, a win here today, boys, and we're in serious knockout stage here.
They will be going for this, no doubt about it. Like they're on 5 points, and a win for them will put them in a real good position for you know, nearly good enough for a semi-final. The way the table is balanced. Yeah. So I think I think a few years ago these 2 teams played in the Downs as well, and a fantastic game it was. I think Lomans won that game, but I just think Kinnegad might have just a bit much now on Saturday evening. It's Saturday evening, isn't it?
Saturday evening, yeah.
Yeah. You know, the only thing about the Downs is a tighter pitch, and you know, it's a big game now this weekend. Like Kinnegad. It's an opportunity for both teams. If you know, Lomans will feel that they've left points behind them, and there's an opportunity now to get points. And Kinnegad will think, well, if we get a win here, we're 1 foot in the semi-final.
Yeah, and like it's conceivable now that with only the 3 qualifying, a defeat for Lomans here, a win for Mullingar Shamrocks, and Lomans could be staring, being put out of the championship without getting to the knockout stages.
Yeah. But on the other hand, if they look at the table
and get a win,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, like the quality that they have, John Heslin, for example. I mean, he could decide an awful lot in this game. He was a little bit. I thought he was a little bit out of it in the second half against Garrycastle. I was in for the second half of that, and they finished the final quarter. Garrycastle marshalled them very well. They deserve credit for that. But I would expect him to be more assertive now. The pressure is on. Pressure brings out the best in these big players. His ability to kick scores, and particularly 2-pointers, that could be a huge factor in that game. Could be.
He probably needs a little bit of help from the likes of TJ Cox, Shane Dempsey. Shane Dempsey is as good as club forward in Westmeath in the last 10 or 15 years. He's been exceptional for Lomans, and they probably need to start chipping in with a couple more scores to, look, as I said the last day, Lomans have been the standard bearers in Westmeath for 10 or 15 years. Like it was every club's objective to get to their level. They've probably come back to the pack, obviously in the last couple of years, maybe through losing players or other clubs stepping up. But as you said, with the likes of John, if he can get the guys around him to take the load off him a little bit, he'll always kick his threes, he'll kick his 2-pointers. Can they get guys to chip in? And I suppose interestingly, just looking at the Kinnegad game in the last round, they didn't use any subs. So whether that means the management obviously are very happy with how the starting 15 are going. They're in great form, as the lads have said there. They'll be looking to really push on, get themselves into a semi-final. So
in when we talk about modern football and needing the full panel, that they started and finished with the 15.
Well, look, Jack would have the experience there, and the lads in the management team in terms of probably what it takes to get real good fitness levels into players, and I suppose when to peak at this time of the year, and different training methods and so on. So obviously they're fit. We talked the last day about how they've maybe developed the attacking side of their game. The likes of Breen Cooney, Darren Giles, 2 Leaches, Jack Thorpe, they've a right good spread of really top forward players that can rack up scores. So they'll they'll have it all to do to get over Lomans. We won't be writing off a draw on this one anyways, that's for sure.
Fascinating match, really is.
This table is so tight, it's
looking at Coruscant on 5, Brendan, the Downs 4, Lomans 3, Mullingar Shamrocks 3, and Gary Castle 3. Conor yet to get off.
This game between Mullingar and Mullingar Shamrocks and Gary Castle, it's a big game. It'll kind of separate them. Whoever wins there is kind of has an opportunity to get to the knockouts. Where if you're beaten, you're kind of out of
your hands anyways. You're relying on others.
Yeah, you're relying on others to. So that's a big game now. Mullingar and Gary Castle, and that's a repeat of the league final, isn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah. That Mullingar won.
Yeah,
after extra time.
But that'll be different. It'll be a different game.
Absolutely.
Completely. That won't have any bearing on the.
I think the injuries to Shane Ormsby and Dennis Croon are big. And interestingly, actually, I heard during the week that Christopher Ormsby was doing a trial for the AFL, and he won the 2 kilometre time trial. So that'll be watch this space maybe. But I did look at Shane Ormsby and Dennis around that middle, the engine room there. Or if they can get them back and fit, will be a huge bearing on this game,
Yeah, because in that game against the Downs, Shane Ormsby went off, and they ended up, Paul O'Donoghue was with me on commentary now, and they ended up making maybe 3-4 positional switches to get a player in, and it just unsettled them. The Downs introduced Kevin Sullivan at the time, and suddenly the game went away from them. But Gary Castle, were impressive against Lomans as well. They stuck to it, and they deserved the draw in the end, and probably felt that they let that game slip because bad mistake to concede a goal. Alex Gardner was turned over at the crucial stage in the game and on the field as well, and Mullingar capitalised on, or Lomans did, but Gary Castle not out of this either by any manner of means.
No, and I would say they're going in to this game with a little bit of momentum, whereas Mullingar Shamrocks there are question marks.
Yeah.
And there are question marks. And the Mullingar Shamrocks, in my view, the Mullingar Shamrocks side that finished the game against the Downs wouldn't be good enough to beat Gary Castle. They're going to need players back. They have plenty of youth, talented minors coming through, but I just feel it's a little bit early for them.
Yeah,
they need a little bit of experience and strength and physical strength around midfield. That was very noticeable, I thought, in the final quarter against the Downs.
Yeah.
Is James Dolan playing for Gary Castle, or was he playing the last day?
He only came on as a sub pretty much near the end of the game.
Okay. He's a key player for Gary Castle.
Yeah,
if they can get him on the field, it's all his experience would be a huge asset to them. And you know, like they have a real good management team there. John Keane and Gary Dolan, like they'll have this game analysed to death, and they'll have all their matchups right. So that game is going to be a tough one now.
It's probably the battle of kind of youth against experience. Like, you know, the Gary Castle team is very experienced with, you know, Conor Cosgrove and Alex and the Monaghan's and the McCallans, Jimmy Dolan, like, along with the management team, like, they've probably good experience in these type of, like, real, you know, heat of championship games. How they know how to win these games. Shamrocks probably have to learn how to win these games, so it'll be interesting to see, I suppose, who comes out at the end of it.
And going back to looking at the Downs against Shamrocks, the way, and I think we have to give them credit as well, but the way they kind of grew into that match for me was very impressive. Kevin O'Sullivan, Charlie Drum, Luke Loughlin, Joe Moore, they had the men, you know, they had the athletes, they had the big powerful runners and their slick movement. To me, they looked really impressive. I would take it for granted that they're going to win this last round game. This round 4 game.
Yeah, I know, but would you be
based on what I've seen?
Yeah, form boot, but I presume Shannon Baker will be back for Colliery. You know, they'll want to go die on their boots.
Going down to Moran now won't be easy.
Yeah.
It's a fair, like, Colliery will rally the troops down there, like, and it's not an easy venue, you know, to get a result. You know,
but look, Damien, I agree, because I thought coming out of Cusick Park the last that the Downs really kind of put down a marker as such now, you know, that the big guns were back. Like Kevin Sullivan was, you know, like he really benefited from the rest away from it. Luke, like, it's been unbelievable since he's come back. Charlie, like the goal, I think it was the second goal they scored against Mullingar, where they just went through them up the field, bang. I think Charlie Drum ended up nearly walking it into the net in the end, but Ian Martin then is starting to come into a bit of form, goal in the last 2 games as well, and he's quality as well, centre forward. Like, they did put down a marker. Now, have Colliery got enough to stop them? But, you know, if the Downs get a win in this one, I think, you know, themselves, you know, if the form sticks and Carlson, Killigan, the Downs win, I think then you're looking at 2 of them going into a semi-final.
Yeah, well, they're certainly in the driving seat then.
Yeah.
No, I know there's a lot of big fans and buts, you know, to happen in that one. But, you know, I thought the Downs looked sort of back to where, you know, they didn't start Michael Maloney the last day, and you probably know him, he's a young fella off the college's team as well, but outstanding, like, and he's just, they can afford just to blood him, put him in, take him off, start him, bring him on as a sub the next day, and it's the way to bloody young fella, really, isn't it?
It was also the likes of Dean, I think you said Dean Egan scored 7 points.
Yeah.
Like, the likes of them guys, Ian Martin, Philip Martin, Lorcan Mullen, like, we all know Luke and Charlie and Kevin O'Sullivan and these boys, you know, and also still maybe Johnny Lynham. I don't think it's too far away, but, you know, they're probably coming good at the right time. I think last year, from round 1, they really were at it. I know we were on the receiving end of it in round 4 last year, but they were really top form from round 1. I think this year, with injuries, with, you know, the way maybe the fixtures went for them, they probably are starting to grow into it after, I think they did draw their first 2 games. You know, they did a good win last week, and now they're starting to push on.
They're dialing it in now, weren't they?
Oh, they're really
They're ramping it up now for the.
I got that feeling coming out of it. The last of this, you know, this is a marker put down here, you know, but a young team that are pretenders probably, and I think they just put the hammer. But look, lads, there's a huge amount of games on this weekend, and
there is correct me if I'm wrong, but, like, there's a possibility that Downs could have been going for 4 in a row this year. Like, I mean, did they win it? They were beaten by Lomans in a penalty shootout, and then they won it last year.
Yeah,
so,
that's
like,
right.
Look, the Downs have been right at the business end of this for the last 4, 5, 6 years. It took them maybe 3-4 years of semi-finals and finals to get over the line.
And they again go back to what you were talking about, underage teams. They had won, was it 3 minors in a row or something like that?
Yeah,
and it just took a little time to get them.
They have that winning mentality now.
Yeah.
You know, and the injuries are clearing up now at the right time, and the momentum. They have the momentum now, and you know they have the experience as well, and the quality most of all. And you know, you put that all together and put that all in the mix. They're just coming at the right time now.
Look, lots of quality games, and by next Sunday evening we'll have a hell of a lot better idea who's going to be in knockout stage, I think, because it'll really have shaped up with one round to go. I'm not going to go through the fixtures again, but for anyone, you can get them on the Lake County Instagram page, or get it on the Westmeath GA website either. But some cracking games, and as I said, get out there and follow your team, whether it's on the Saturday or the Sunday, and maybe even on the Friday evening. Damien might see you down in Kinnegad for that junior game, and we'll be able to talk about that then for next week. Owen Jordan, the best luck against St. Bridget's next week as well. You'll have a good idea where you stand after that one. Damien, thank you very much for joining us, and Brendan, as always, your knowledge and your expertise in football and hurling, as well as all things administration. Always great to have you on the podcast. Jerry Gavin was on the cameras tonight. Tom Brown is our producer all the time, and we'll finish up from Ray Gavin tonight. Give us a follow on YouTube or Instagram or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Give us a like or a follow there as well. And as always, lads, Iarmhi.